embark on a journey through the pages of When the Stars Wage War, spun from the creative threads of StoryWave AI. Like, share, and subscribe to journey with us through Tales Untold. Chapter 1, A New Reality. The city of Valicon, a gleaming metropolis of spiraling towers and floating platforms, hummed with anticipation under the twin suns of Nibiru. Today was not just another cycle in the cosmic calendar. It was the day Elara, Vitrix, and Caius Drayden would reveal their magnum opus to their world. Elara, her auburn hair cascading down her slender frame like a waterfall of fiery silk, tapped a series of glowing runes on her holopad. A small scar under her left eye, a memento from her early tinkering with virtual landscapes, did little to mar her otherwise radiant visage. Her emerald green eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and nervous energy as she looked over to her partner. Caius, his athletic build a memorial to his active lifestyle outside the realm of circuitry and code, gave Elara an encouraging nod. His coal-black hair provided a striking contrast to his piercing steel blue eyes. The well-trimmed beard framing his jawline gave him an air of distinction, while his cybernetic arm, a marvel of engineering, whirred softly as he made his final adjustments. The square was packed with Helionth citizens, their various shades of skin glistening in the sunlight. They were a species that cherished the pursuit of knowledge and the joy of experience. Today, they would be offered the ultimate form of both. "Are you ready, Ela?" Caius's voice cut through the mounting buzz of the crowd, his tone commanding yet laced with a rare hint of vulnerability. Elara's response was a confident smile. "As ready as we'll ever be, Kai." With a flourish of her wrist, Elara initiated the sequence. An enormous holographic globe materialized above them, displaying a lush blue and green planet foreign to the onlookers. The globe rotated slowly, revealing continents and oceans in breathtaking detail. "Ladies, gentlemen, and esteemed beings of Valicon," Elara began, her voice melodious and carrying. "Today, we offer you more than just an escape from the ordinary. We present to you a gateway to Earth, a world many of you have longed to experience." Caius stepped forward, his cybernetic arm reflecting the light in a mesmerizing dance of shadows and brilliance. "Our creation is not just a game. It is a chance to live another life, a full life, in the span of an hour. To feel the wind of another world on your skin, to make choices and see their outcomes before the sands of the hourglass settle." Murmurs of awe rippled through the crowd as the potential of such an experience began to dawn on them. A lifetime within an hour, a chance to live without the fear of lasting consequences. "But how?" a voice called out from the throng, tinged with skepticism. "How can such an experience be authentic?" Elara and Caius exchanged a knowing glance before he addressed the query. "Through the intricate weaving of quantum code and neural synchronicity, we've bridged the gap between reality and simulation. This is not a mere illusion, but a true existence within a different plane." A hand shot up in the crowd, attached to a figure with piercing gray eyes. Thane Corval, known as the Wall for his unyielding nature as supreme commander, was not one easily swayed by pretty words. "And what of our world while we indulge in these fantasies? What keeps us safe if we all escape to this Earth?" His gruff voice carried the weight of responsibility and concern. Elara stepped forward, her demeanor dreamy yet decisive. "General Corval, we've considered this. The game is designed for leisure, not evasion. It's a reminder of what we fight for: experience, emotion, life itself. It's not a substitute for reality, but an extension of it." Seraphine Ravel, the ambassador of the Interstellar Alliance, stood with her platinum hair like a halo in the sunlight, her icy blue eyes reflecting a mind at work. "If I may, General, this technology represents more than mere entertainment. It could serve as a tool for empathy, for understanding. By living lives so vastly different from our own, we open our minds to new possibilities, to new solutions." Jax Harlow, the youngest in the crowd, couldn't help but chuckle. Hotshot, they called him, for his impulsive nature as an ace starfighter pilot. "Sounds like a load of fun to me. Can't wait to give it a shot, live a little without dodging blaster fire for once." The crowd laughed, the tension easing as Jax's hazel eyes sparkled with mischief, his lean frame unable to contain the excitement of youth. As the suns began their descent, casting long shadows over the city of Valicon, the first group of eager participants donned their virtual reality headsets. Elara and Caius watched, proud yet anxious, as their masterpiece came to life. The city celebrated, but in the back of their minds, Elara and Caius knew that their invention was more than a game. It was the beginning of something that could reshape their understanding of existence. Something that could be a signpost during the dark times that loomed on the horizon. As the stars prepared to wage their wars, the denizens of Nibiru found a new reality waiting for them, a reality that promised the richness of a lifetime in the blink of an eye. Chapter 2, Birth on Earth. With the first rays of the sun kissing the horizon, the group of eager players from Valicon found themselves awakening, not under the familiar twin suns of Nibiru, but on the verdant, wide-ranging planet of Earth. The sensation was bewildering, disorienting, as if their very essence had been transported across the cosmos and gently placed into an alien yet oddly comforting reality. Jax, with his usual impulsive flair, was the first to vocalize the group's shared discombobulation. Whoa, this is freaky. 1 minute, we're standing in Valicon, and the next, I'm lying on grass, real grass. His voice, brash yet tinged with wonder, broke the initial silence that had enveloped the group. Elara, her emerald eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and professional pride, sat up and surveyed their surroundings. It worked, she whispered, almost to herself. We're here. This is Earth. Caius stood with a steady confidence, his steel blue eyes scanning the horizon. Indeed, and it's more than I dared hope. The level of detail, the richness of the colors, the depth of the sensory input, it's indistinguishable from reality. As the others rose, a collective gasp escaped them. They stood in a meadow dotted with wildflowers, surrounded by the gentle roll of hills and the distant outline of mountains. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of earth in bloom, an obvious variance to the recycled atmosphere of Nibiru. Seraphine, her icy blue eyes reflecting the clear sky above, stepped forward with the grace of a diplomat. This is extraordinary. To think that we've crafted a bridge between worlds, a nexus of experience and learning. The wall, his piercing gray eyes usually so adept at assessing battlefields, now softened as he took in the serene landscape. Aye, Ambassador. It's a marvel indeed. But let us not forget the purpose of our journey. We're here to test the limits of this creation, to understand its potential and its dangers. A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, a reminder that amidst the awe, they had a mission to uphold. They began to explore, their movements tentative, as if the very ground beneath their feet might shift and change. Hey, check this out, Jax called, his voice carrying over the meadow. He was crouched by a stream, the water crystal clear and cool to the touch. I can feel the water, the pebbles under my fingers. It's like I'm really here. Elara joined him, her artist's heart captivated by the beauty before her. Every sensation has been accounted for. The warmth of the sun, the rustle of the leaves in the wind, the texture of the earth. Caius, the algorithms you designed, they're flawless. Caius, his cybernetic arm whirring softly as he collected samples of the virtual environment, nodded. Thank you, Ella. It's one thing to design in theory, another to see it come to life. But remember, this is all a complex tapestry of mathematics and science, woven into an experience. The group continued to venture forth, each step revealing new wonders, a flock of birds taking flight, the distant roar of a waterfall, the gentle sway of trees. They were children again, discovering a world for the first time, each sensation a novel delight. But as the day progressed, the initial euphoria gave way to a creeping sense of unease. They were pioneers in a new frontier, yes, but they were also adrift from their anchor, their home of Nibiru. Seraphine, ever the voice of reason, addressed the group as they gathered under the shade of an ancient oak. We must consider the implications of our presence here. This earth, while a masterpiece, is not our home. We must remain vigilant, aware that our true selves lie elsewhere. The wall, his broad frame casting a long shadow, nodded in agreement. The ambassador is right. We can't lose ourselves in this place. There's a war coming, and we need every able mind and body ready to defend Nibiru. Their conversation, rich with the wisdom of experience and the thrill of discovery, continued into the virtual twilight. They debated, they theorized, they shared their astonishments and their concerns. And as the stars began to twinkle in the Earth's sky, a facsimile of their own, they knew that the bridge they had crossed was more than a technological triumph. It was a step into the unknown, a dance on the edge of possibility. As night fell on Earth, the players felt the weight of their task. This was no mere game, it was the dawn of a new reality. They had been born anew on this Earth, and with that rebirth came the responsibility to use their experience for the greater good of Nibiru. The stars might wage their wars, but the hearts and minds of these players would be the battleground where the fate of their world would be decided. Chapter 3: Seeds of War. As the binary stars of Nibiru crested the horizon, their pale light fell upon a city in turmoil. The once celebratory streets of Valicon were now awash with gentle whispers and anxious glances. The news had spread like wildfire through the interconnected web of Nibiruan society. Whispers of war were now shouts that echoed off the crystalline structures of their advanced civilization. In a secure command center, buried beneath layers of protective energy fields, Thane Corval stood with his broad shoulders squared against the weight of impending conflict. The silver streaks in his hair caught the artificial light as he hunched over a holotable, studying the swirling patterns of data and projections. "General, the latest intel reports are in," announced a young officer, her voice betraying a hint of trepidation as she handed over a datapad. Thane scrutinized the pad, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the influx of information. "Thank you, Lieutenant." His voice, gruff as the landscape of a barren moon, offered no hint of his thoughts. Caius, with his keen mind for both the mechanical and the possible, stood nearby. He watched the general with an analytical gaze. "You're thinking about the game, aren't you, Thane? About how it might be used in this conflict." Thane lifted his gaze, locking eyes with Caius. "You're sharp, engineer." "Yes, I am. This virtual reality of yours could be a tool for training, for strategy simulations, but it also could be a distraction, a vulnerability." Elara, who had been quietly observing the exchange, stepped forward. Her tattoo of a celestial map seemed to pulse with a life of its own under the dim light. It was meant to be an escape, a way to experience life differently, not a preparation for destruction. Caius nodded, his cybernetic arm reflecting the somber mood. "And yet, we must adapt. If there's a way our creation can protect Nibiru, shouldn't we explore it?" The conversation was interrupted by Seraphine, entering the room with a presence that demanded attention despite her petite stature. "Gentlemen, Elara, I've just come from the assembly. There's fear that this game could weaken our defenses, distract our citizens from the reality of our situation." Jax, his youthful energy barely contained, jumped in. "But can't you see? This could be the edge we need. Imagine pilots training in simulations that feel real but carry no risk of loss." The group fell into a lengthy exchange, ideas and concerns volleying back and forth. Thane's strategic mind grappled with the possibilities. Seraphine's diplomatic instinct sought balance. Caius's inventive thoughts outlined the potential. Alara's artistic soul yearned for the game to remain untainted, and Jax's fighter's heart saw an opportunity for glory without consequence. As the meeting drew on, the room felt smaller, the stakes higher. The virtual Earth, with its promise of peace and simplicity, now hung in the balance, a marked difference to the complexity of their situation. Finally, Thane stood, his voice steady and sure. "We'll explore all options. The game, the training it could offer, the respite it provides. But we will not lose sight of who we are, of what we stand for. We are Nibiruan, and we face our challenges head-on, not in the shadow of fear." The group nodded, a silent agreement to stand united, regardless of the path they chose. As they dispersed, each was lost in thought, considering the role they would play in the days to come. The seeds of war had been sown, and though the virtual world offered an escape, it was here, on Nibiru, where the fate of their civilization would be determined. The game had changed, and with it, so too would they. Chapter 4: Quantum Threads. The grand auditorium of Valicon's Science Pavilion was a hive of activity, its walls echoing with the hum of intellectual debate. Here, the finest minds of Nibiru had gathered, their attention fixed upon Caius as he stood at the lectern, the air around him alive with holographic images of atoms and particles connected by invisible bonds. "Thank you all for being here," Caius began, his voice clear and resonant in the vast chamber. "Today, we delve into the quantum underpinnings of our virtual Earth reality, the very threads that stitch our consciousness to avatars light years away. A murmur of fascination swept through the crowd as Caius manipulated the holograms, twisting and entwining the threads to illustrate his points. At the heart of our technology lies quantum entanglement, a phenomenon that binds particles across distances vast and immediate. A scientist in the front row, her silver hair tied back to reveal sharp, inquisitive eyes, raised her hand. Caius, if I may. The concept of entanglement is well understood, but how do you maintain coherence over such distances? The energy required would be astronomical. Caius nodded, his cybernetic arm whirring as he adjusted the display to zoom in on a pair of entangled particles. A valid concern, Dr. Yelena. We utilize a series of quantum repeaters, harnessing the power of micro-singularities to sustain the connection. Think of it as a cosmic relay race, passing the baton of information from one point to the next. The audience leaned forward, absorbing every word as Caius detailed the intricacies of their technology. Yet as the explanation continued, a stern-faced ethicist stood, his brow furrowed with concern. Your explanation is thorough, Engineer Drayden, but it skirts around the ethical implications. What of the individuals who use this technology? Do we not risk losing our grasp on what is truly real? Caius met the man's gaze, his steel blue eyes steady. A question at the core of our symposium, Mr. Keel. We must tread carefully, indeed. The purpose of this technology is not to replace our reality, but to enhance our understanding of existence. Elara, her presence at the symposium, a blend of curiosity and duty, chimed in. We've seen firsthand the joy and knowledge it can bring. It gives us perspective, a chance to walk in shoes we never could have crafted from our own experiences. Jax, never one to shy away from a debate, leaned back in his chair, his youthful features etched with a casual confidence. Plus, it's a blast. You can't tell me there's no value in that. We've got a chance to live without limits, to learn without the fear of failure. The conversation ebbed and flowed like the tides of an ocean, each point and counterpoint a wave crashing upon the shores of understanding. The ethicist, Mr. Keel, pressed on, his voice a calm yet insistent force. But where do we draw the line? At what point does the avatar become more than a vessel for experience and start to replace the individual? Seraphine watched the exchange, her mind a whirlwind of diplomatic strategies and philosophical quandaries. It's a delicate balance, she offered, her voice the epitome of poise. We must consider the societal impact, the potential for dependency. This technology is a tool, and like all tools, its value is determined by how we wield it. The symposium stretched on, the sun outside dipping below the horizon as the participants debated, theorized, and questioned. Caius's revelations had opened a Pandora's box of ethical and philosophical considerations, the threads of their conversation as entangled as the quantum particles that made their virtual Earth possible. As the stars began to dot the night sky, a reflection of the countless connections that now bound their world to another, the citizens of Nibiru left the auditorium with more questions than answers. The seeds of war may have been sown, but so too were the seeds of a deeper understanding of their place in the cosmos. The quantum threads that linked their minds to distant avatars had bound them in ways they were only beginning to comprehend. Chapter 5, Temporal Dilemma. In the heart of Valicon's scientific enclave, where the architecture itself seemed to whisper of equations and theorems, Elara stood before a window that looked out upon a simulated Earth. The planet spun slowly, a mesmerizing orb of blues and greens, its rotation a visual symphony of life and fast forward. Caius approached, his footsteps silent on the polymer floor. Elara, you've been here for cycles. You should rest. Elara's gaze remained fixed on the planet. It's fascinating, Caius. On Earth, my avatar is growing old, living a life in what feels like moments. Here I stand, unchanged. Caius leaned against the window frame, watching the planet turn with her. It's the nature of our creation. Time on Earth runs differently. Experiences condense. It's a lot to process. A group of scientists and engineers, their minds as sharp as the tools they wielded, gathered around a large table. They were deep in discussion, their conversation a tapestry of theories and conjectures. Have you considered the ramifications? One of the scientists queried, his tone clinical, detached from the emotional weight of their debate. If memories form in the avatars, what becomes of those experiences when the users return? Elara turned from the window, her interest piqued. That's the heart of it, isn't it? Who are we, if not the sum of our memories and experiences? What happens when those memories belong to someone else? Jax, who had been listening intently, chimed in with his characteristic enthusiasm. It's like living multiple lives, right? Each time you jack in, you're adding a whole new chapter to your story. Seraphine, ever the diplomat, folded her hands in front of her, considering the weight of their words. But it's more complex than that. There's a continuity of self that we must maintain. How do we reconcile the experiences of our avatars with our true selves? The conversation swirled around the room, each participant adding their voice to the chorus. The scientists spoke of neural patterns and psychological impacts, while the engineers discussed the technical aspects of memory integration. Thane, who had been quietly observing the discourse, finally spoke up. His voice was firm, a commanding presence that demanded attention. We're treading in uncharted territory. The potential for identity crises is real. We must ensure that our people don't lose themselves in these other lives. Elara nodded, her emerald eyes reflecting a depth of understanding. There must be a balance, perhaps a way to filter the memories, to keep the essence without overwhelming the individual. Caius stroked his well-trimmed beard, pondering the dilemma. We could develop a system to integrate the experiences selectively, like a dream that fades upon waking, but still leaves an impression. The debate continued into the hours of early dawn, the room alive with the sound of fervent discussion. Ideas were proposed, dissected, and reassembled. The group was a microcosm of Nibiru itself, a civilization that thrived on innovation and knowledge, but now faced the delicate task of preserving the integrity of the individual. As Elara watched the first light of Nibiru's suns filter through the window, illuminating the room with a soft glow, she realized that their greatest challenge lay not in the stars or the technology they wielded, but in understanding the human element at the heart of it all. The temporal dilemma was not just a question of science, it was a question of what it meant to be alive. Chapter 6, The Game Changes. The dawn of Nibiru was greeted by the usual symphony of technological harmonies, but today the notes carried a hint of discord. The game had woven itself into the fabric of society, its allure undeniable, its escape intoxicating. Yet, as its roots dug deeper, so too did the concerns about its grip on the populace. In the bustling hub of Valicon's market district, where vendors sold exotic goods from far-flung planets and the air buzzed with the chatter of commerce, Elara found herself amidst a sea of conversation that had little to do with trade. The citizens were engrossed in exchanges that revolved around the game, their words laced with both enthusiasm and unease. "Have you heard about Marek's son? He's barely left his room since he got the game. It's like he's there, but not really," one merchant lamented to another, her voice rich with worry. Caius, passing by with parts for his latest project, overheard the concern and paused. The game is meant to be an experience, not a replacement for living. We may need to consider safeguards, time limits, perhaps. Nearby, Jax was in the midst of a heated discussion with a group of his fellow starfighter pilots. Their usual banter about aerial maneuvers had given way to a more serious debate. "I'm telling you, it's changing the way we fly, for better or worse. I feel like I can take more risks. Push the envelope," Jax argued, his hands animatedly describing a daring dive. One pilot, a veteran with a cautious glint in his eye, shook his head. "But is that recklessness what we need? There's a thin line between bravery and folly, my friend." The conversation spilled out from the market and into the academic halls and family dwellings. A movement was coalescing, voices rising in a chorus of concern. They questioned the wisdom of surrendering so completely to a virtual existence, of blurring the lines between pixels and people, data and flesh. Seraphine, in a gathering of the Interstellar Alliance, raised the issue with the gravity it deserved. We must address the societal impact. The game is a marvel, yes, but we cannot let it overshadow our reality. The debate stretched long, words flowing like rivers of thought, carving out new landscapes of opinion and perspective. "There needs to be balance," Seraphine continued, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "We must educate our citizens, remind them of the beauty and duty of the real world." Thane, in his command center, mulled over the reports coming in. Productivity had seen a marginal decline, and there was a notable uptick in absenteeism. The game was winning hearts, but at what cost? A young officer approached, her posture rigid with formality. "Sir, there's talk of limiting access to the game, of imposing regulations." Thane rubbed his chin, the silver in his hair catching the light. "Regulations may be necessary, but we must not stifle innovation or personal freedom. We'll start with recommendations, guidelines. We need our people present, especially now." The movement grew, their message spreading through the network of communication that connected the city. Posters appeared on walls, and forums were filled with discourse. The game, once a symbol of progress and joy, had become a marker for debate. As night fell and the stars took their place in the heavens, the citizens of Nibaru looked up, reminded of the vast universe beyond their screens. The game had changed, and with it, they realized that their society stood at a crossroads. The balance between the allure of a virtual life and the responsibilities of the real one had become the new frontier they must navigate. Chapter 7: Echoes of Earth. The virtual dawn on Earth brought with it not just the light of a simulated sun, but also a wave of confusion as players gradually disconnected from their avatars. In the city of Valicon, the impact of the virtual reality game was becoming palpably clear, and the air was thick with conversations that buzzed with a mix of wonder and concern. Elara, her back adorned with the celestial map tattoo, found herself in the midst of a gathering in the central forum where the monumental fountains stood silent, the water stilled to give space for public discourse. Here, citizens shared their tales of Earth, the echoes of their other lives still reverberating in their minds. "I swear I could still smell the pine trees when I woke up," one player shared, his eyes distant as if he were looking through the walls of reality itself. Caius listened intently, his cybernetic arm resting by his side, the normally soft whir of its machinery now a tentative whisper. The sensory feedback loops we designed were meant to be immersive, but these residual effects are unexpected. Jax, leaning against a sculpted pillar, his usual brashness tempered by the gravity of the situation, added, "It's like I've got dual citizenship, here and on Earth. I've got a whole family waiting for me, but they're not real, are they?" Seraphine, her necklace with the holographic locket reflecting the soft light of the forum, interjected with the calmness that her role as an ambassador required. "We're facing a psychological phenomenon. Our experiences on Earth, though virtual, are crafted to be authentic. It's no wonder they linger." The group's exchanges became a marathon session of shared experiences and collective attempts to unravel the psychological knitting that the game had woven into their lives. Thane, his towering frame a silent obelisk among the murmurs, finally spoke. "We've opened a door we might not be able to close. The question is, do we want to? What does it mean for our reality if another one holds sway over our hearts and minds?" The forum filled with the sounds of debate, the citizens of Valicon expressing their amazement and their fears. The game had promised adventure and exploration, but it had also delivered a labyrinth of emotional and mnemonic pathways that some found difficult to navigate. In a corner of the forum, a scientist set up a holographic display, projecting images of neural networks and quantum entanglement diagrams. "Our brains are not just biological constructs, they are quantum interfaces. The game has tapped into that, binding us to Earth in ways we're only beginning to understand." Elara turned to Caius, her emerald eyes searching for answers in his steel-blue gaze. "We need to explore this further. If our technology is weaving memories that persist, we must consider the implications for identity and mental health." Caius nodded, his mind already racing with equations and potential solutions. "Perhaps we can adjust the quantum algorithms, fine-tune the entanglement to be less sticky." As the Nibaruan suns dipped below the horizon, the conversations in the forum began to ebb, like a tide retreating from the shore. The citizens dispersed, each carrying with them the echoes of Earth, the memories of their avatars' lives intertwining with their own. The game had changed the landscape of their existence, and as the stars twinkled into view, the protagonists knew that they must confront the psychological effects of their creation. The echoes of Earth had become more than just whispers. They were a chorus that demanded attention, a melody that resonated with the very core of what it meant to be Nibaruan. Chapter 8: A Society Divided. In the sprawling metropolis of Valicon, the heart of Nibaruan innovation and progress, a new day's dawn cast long shadows over the city's grand plazas and soaring structures. The air vibrated with the hum of hovering vehicles and the buzz of spirited exchanges. Valicon, once a signpost of unity, now found its citizens standing on a precipice of division, their society cleaving into factions over the virtual reality game that had become a cultural phenomenon. Within the grand hall of the assembly, Seraphine stood at the center of a heated session, her icy blue eyes reflecting the tension of the room. Around her, the voices of delegates rose and fell like waves crashing against the shores of reason. Let's not lose ourselves to fear and nostalgia. The game is a leap forward for our society, a tool for growth and empathy. One delegate proclaimed, his fist raised high for emphasis. Another delegate, her silver hair pulled back to reveal a stern countenance, countered with equal fervor. And what of our roots, our traditions? We risk losing our heritage to this artificial existence. Seraphine raised her hands, calling for calm. We are all seekers of knowledge, explorers of potential. Let us not forget that our strength lies in our ability to discuss, to understand. We must find a middle ground. Elara, observing from the gallery, sketched the scene unfolding below, her auburn hair a fiery contrast against the cool tones of the chamber. Her hands moved deftly, capturing the essence of the debate without a single spoken word. Caius, his athletic form leaning against a marble column, exchanged a glance with Elara. His cybernetic arm, an emblem of Nibaruan technological prowess, was still for once, as if reflecting the gravity of the moment. Jax, among the younger members of the audience, whispered to a nearby companion, "It's like we're choosing between two worlds. But why can't we have both?" The companion, a young pilot with a thoughtful expression, nodded slowly. "Balance, that's the key. We can soar through the stars and keep our feet on the ground." The discussions within the assembly spiraled into intricate arguments, punctuated by passionate pleas and logical presentations. The delegates, a representation of Nibaruan diversity, struggled to reconcile their reverence for technological advancement with the preservation of their societal fabric. Thane, standing at the back of the hall with his arms folded, watched the proceedings with a mixture of concern and hope. The echoes of his military discipline resonated in his silent vigil, his piercing gray eyes missing nothing. As Seraphine navigated the tempest of opinions, she wove a narrative of coexistence, emphasizing the importance of balance between innovation and tradition. We are charting the course of our future, but we must steer with care, for the consequences will be felt for generations. The day waned, and the assembly adjourned, leaving the delegates to reflect on the words spoken. The hall emptied, the echoes of the day's debates lingering in the air like the remnants of a storm. Valicon rested under the watchful gaze of the twin suns, its people divided yet united in their quest for a tenacity. The game had altered the landscape of their lives, and now they stood at a crossroads, their choices echoing the fundamental dichotomy of their existence, the allure of boundless virtual horizons versus the grounding pull of their real-world legacy. Chapter 9. The War Within. In the heart of Nibaru's military complex, a fortress of steel and pulsing energy shields, Thane stood before a room of high-ranking officers and defense strategists. The chamber, lined with screens displaying star maps and tactical data, buzzed with the undercurrent of an impending storm. "We've got an opportunity to harness the game for combat training," Thane declared, his voice echoing off the walls with the force of a man accustomed to command. Imagine soldiers honing their skills in simulations indistinguishable from real combat, without the risk of casualty. Across the table, a seasoned officer, her nameplate reading Commander Lena, leaned forward, her sharp features set in a frown. "General, the psychological impact of such intense simulations could be damaging. We can't predict how the mind will react to virtual warfare." Thane's jaw tightened, a physical manifestation of his resolve. "We've faced psychological challenges before. Our soldiers are tenacious. This could give us the edge we need." Caius, invited for his technical expertise, interjected with a note of caution. "Commander Lena has a point. My team can design scenarios, but we can't account for every variable. There's a vast difference between a game and the realities of war." The room swelled with voices, each officer and strategist contributing their perspective to the debate. They discussed the merits and dangers of using the game as a training ground, their words a volley of concern and ambition. Jax, who had been observing silently, couldn't contain his thoughts any longer. With all due respect, we're not just talking about strategy and reflexes. There's a mental toll that comes with combat, real or not. Thane considered Jax's words, his cybernetic eye scanning the young pilot. Your point is taken, Harlow. But we must adapt. War is upon us, and we need every advantage. Seraphine entered the room, her presence like a calm in the tempest. Gentlemen, I've been speaking with the citizens. There's fear that this program could change the very nature of who we are as Nibaruan. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over the assembly like a blanket of snow. We are a people of science and peace. Let's not forget that in our pursuit of security, she continued. Elara, who had been quietly taking in the scene, finally spoke up. Perhaps there's a compromise. We could create a separate, controlled version of the game for military use, one that's carefully monitored for psychological effects. The suggestion rippled through the room, sparking a new wave of discussion. The strategists began to outline potential protocols, while the officers debated the ethics and logistics. As the meeting drew to a close, Thane stood once more. This is the war within, the battle between our desire for peace and the need to defend it. We'll proceed with caution, but proceed we must. The officers filed out, their faces a mixture of determination and doubt. The military complex, a bastion of Nibruan defense, had become a crucible for a new kind of warfare, one fought not just in the stars but in the minds of those who would defend them. Chapter 10, Reality's Edge. In the gleaming expanse of Valicon's central tech hub, where the air hummed with the pulse of 1,000,000 data streams, the news hit like a meteor strike. A player had perished, their link to the virtual Earth severed in a way no one had thought possible. The tragedy rippled through the city, casting a shadow over the game that had become a part of Nibaruan life. Elara, her hands trembling like leaves in a storm, stared at the console where the dreadful event had unfolded. The soft glow of the screen did little to warm the chill that had settled in the room. Caius, his brow furrowed in concentration, pored over the code that had been the bridge between realities. This shouldn't have happened. The safeguards were in place. The fail-safes. Seraphine, standing beside Thane in the dim light of the control center, spoke with the weight of her position heavy on her shoulders. We need to address the public, assure them that we're doing everything to understand how this occurred. Thane's voice, usually a bastion of unwavering strength, carried a subtle tremor as he responded. Yes, Ambassador, but more than that, we need to look at ourselves, at the responsibility we bear for every soul who trusted us with their consciousness. Jax, leaning against a console, his features drawn tight, broke the heavy silence. It was just supposed to be a game. Fun. Adventure. Not this. Not death. The group's discussion unfolded with an urgency that matched the crisis at hand. They dissected every line of code, every protocol, and every past interaction with the game, searching for the anomaly that had led to the unthinkable. I keep thinking about the quantum threads, Caius mused, his voice barely above a whisper. If there was a fluctuation, even for a nanosecond, it could have caused a feedback loop. Elara nodded, her mind racing with possibilities and implications. But that would mean our understanding of the entanglement is flawed. We need to go deeper, into the very fabric of the technology. The clock ticked away, each second a reminder of the gravity of their situation. The room became a crucible of thought and debate as they grappled with the implications of the accident. Seraphine cleared her throat, her words slicing through the tension. What of the ethical considerations? We promised them escape, not peril. We must reconsider the game's place in our society. Thane paced the length of the room, his steps measured and deliberate. We also promised them advancement, progress. We can't turn our backs on that now. We must find a way to ensure this never happens again. The conversation continued into the night, the stars outside the windows standing as silent witnesses to the turmoil within. Ideas were proposed, solutions crafted and discarded, and the weight of their creation bore down upon them. As dawn approached, the group reached a consensus. The game would be paused, a moratorium on play enacted until they could guarantee the safety of every player. It was a decision that carried the weight of their collective conscience, a history to their resolve. Valicon awoke to a city in mourning, but also to a city determined to face the challenges of their own making. The edge of reality had been frayed, but the Nibaruan spirit, defined by their pursuit of knowledge and tempered by their care for one another, would not be easily broken. Chapter 11, Breaking Point. Nibiru, a planet of innovation and wonder, faced the starry abyss of space with a mixture of pride and apprehension. Its glistening cities, with spires reaching toward the heavens, had become beacons of progress in a galaxy rife with unknown dangers. Today, the skies that once held the promise of discovery were darkened by the shadow of an enemy fleet, their intentions as clear as the threat they posed. In the central command room of the defense hub, a structure as robust and secure as the mines that filled it, Thane stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze locked on the live feed of approaching warships. The air was electric with tension. The soft hum of the hub's machinery, a distinct separation to the silent dread that had fallen over the room. "We have a choice to make," Thane's voice boomed across the command room, "to use our greatest technological achievement as a weapon, or to disable it, to protect our people from its unintended consequences." Caius, his cybernetic arm reflecting the dim light, turned to face Thane. "We designed the game for exploration, for learning. It was never meant to be a tool of war." Elara, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the celestial map tattooed on her back, chimed in with a tone of resolve. "If we alter its purpose, we may lose part of what makes us Nibaruan. Our curiosity, our desire to grow, it's at the core of who we are." The room burst into a hullabaloo of voices as officers and scientists debated their next move. The reality of war, once a distant thought, was now upon them, testing the fabric of their society. Jax, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a hardened seriousness, leaned over the tactical display. "What if we use it to outmaneuver them? We've got the best pilots, the best strategists. Let's give them a taste of Nibaruan ingenuity." Seraphine, her diplomatic instincts kicking in, attempted to weave through the tumultuous sea of opinions. "We must consider the consequences of our actions, not just for today, but for the future of our world. Whatever we decide, we do it together." The discussion carried on, each participant wrestling with the moral and practical implications of the decision before them. The game, once an escape from reality, was now at the center of their gravest crisis. "We're at the breaking point," Thane stated, his voice cutting through the noise. "We use every resource, every advantage we have. The game can wait." Chapter 11, Breaking Point. Nibiru, a planet of innovation and wonder, faced the starry abyss of space with a mixture of pride and apprehension. Its glistening cities, with spires reaching toward the heavens, had become beacons of progress in a galaxy rife with unknown dangers. Today, the skies that once held the promise of discovery were darkened by the shadow of an enemy fleet, their intentions as clear as the threat they posed. In the central command room of the defense hub, a structure as robust and secure as the mines that filled it, Thane stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze locked on the live feed of approaching warships. The air was electric with tension. The soft hum of the hub's machinery, a distinct separation to the silent dread that had fallen over the room. "We have a choice to make." Chapter 12, Virtual Valor. The digital realm of the game shimmered with the brilliant hues of 100 sunsets, a clear-cut difference to the grim reality of Nibaru's skies, now streaked with the scars of battle. Jax, with his confident swagger and impulsive tactics, stood at the helm of a virtual starship, a vessel as sleek and formidable as any in the real-world fleet. "All right, crew, this is it. We've got a chance to make a difference, to stand up for our home, even if it's just in here," Jax announced, his voice steady, resonating through the virtual bridge. Around him, a motley assembly of players, their avatars as varying as the streets of Valicon, nodded and murmured their assent. They were a reflection of Nibaru itself, united in purpose despite their differences. Caius, his avatar's cybernetic arm glinting in the simulated light, worked furiously at a console. "We've synced the game's physics to mirror actual space combat as closely as possible. What you learn here could save lives out there." Elara, her avatar's emerald eyes scanning the virtual cosmos, added, "We've embedded real-world star maps, The strategies you develop could be vital. The room filled with the hum of activity as the players prepared their ships, the virtual spaceport bustling with as much energy as any on Nibiru. The game, once a means of escape, had become a crucible of training and preparation. Seraphine, her diplomatic skills as sharp in the virtual world as in the physical, coordinated the efforts. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, but for the essence of Nibiru. Our creativity, our spirit, it all comes into play. The fleet of virtual ships, a dazzling array of shapes and sizes, began to move as one, their engines roaring to life in a chorus of defiance. Jax, at the forefront, led the charge, his avatar's face set in a determined grimace. "Let's show them what we're made of," he called out, his voice booming over the comms. The rebellion unfolded, a dance of ships and strategy, each maneuver executed with precision and care. The players found themselves immersed in the thrill of battle, their minds focused, their actions decisive. Caius watched, his face illuminated by the glow of the screen. Look at them, they're natural-born pilots. Every one of them. Elara stood beside him, her sketchpad forgotten as she observed the unfolding rebellion. They're learning, growing in confidence. It's more than I hoped for. The conflict in the game grew more intense, mirroring the real-world battles that raged in the skies above Nibiru. Each victory in the virtual world bolstered the spirits of the players, each defeat a lesson learned. As the virtual sun dipped below the horizon of a distant planet, the rebellion reached its climax. Jax's ship swooped in, delivering the decisive blow to the enemy's flagship, a symbol of the strength and courage of the Nibiruan people. The players erupted in cheers, the sound filling the virtual space with a sense of triumph. Jax's avatar saluted his crew, a broad smile spreading across his digital face. "We did it, team. We stood together and fought back. Let's carry this spirit with us back to the real fight, to Nibiru," he said, pride evident in his voice. The players disconnected, their minds returning to their physical bodies, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of the real battle that awaited them. They had found valor in the virtual, and now it was time to bring that courage to bear against the true enemy at their doorstep. Valicon, its streets quieter now, its citizens somber yet determined, stood ready to defend their world. The game had given them a glimpse of their potential, and now it was time to live up to it. The stars continued their silent vigil, the war within now a war for survival, and the people of Nibiru rose to meet it. Chapter 13, Entangled Destinies. Under the soft glow of Nibiru's twin moons, the central tech hub was alive with a frenzy of activity. Elara and Caius stood in the heart of the complex, surrounded by a labyrinth of pulsing conduits and shimmering data screens, each one a window into the quantum streams that connected their world with the virtual Earth. Elara, focused intently on the task at hand, adjusted the dials on a console with meticulous care. "Caius, if we reroute the entanglement through a secondary modulation field, we might be able to isolate the streams." Caius, his cybernetic arm integrated seamlessly with the console's interface, nodded. "That could work, Ela. By partitioning the streams, we may prevent the kind of feedback that led to the accident." The room echoed with the sound of their voices as they engaged in a complex dance of theory and application, their minds synchronized in pursuit of a solution. The fate of Nibiru's citizens, both in the game and the real world, hung delicately in the balance. Suddenly, with a flicker of the displays, a new pattern emerged, a harmony of quantum signals that pulsed with potential. "Look at this," Caius exclaimed, his voice a mix of surprise and excitement. "These patterns, they're more than random fluctuations. They might be the key to ending the war." Elara leaned in, her eyes tracing the intricate web of light. "If we can replicate this pattern in the real world, it could disrupt the enemy's communication, throw them into disarray." The idea sparked a fire of possibility, and they set to work with renewed vigor, their conversation a rapid exchange of technical jargon and strategic planning. The night wore on, the moons tracing their silent arc across the sky as Elara and Caius wove their plan. In the midst of their preparations, Seraphine entered, her gaze sweeping over the array of equipment. "What have you found?" she asked, her voice the very embodiment of calm amidst the storm. "We may have a way to use the game to our advantage without turning it into a weapon," Caius replied, his explanation punctuated by the tapping of keys. "Could it be that simple?" Seraphine pondered, her mind already considering the diplomatic ramifications. To turn our creation from a tool of escape to a lighthouse of hope? Jax, who had been piloting sorties in the real-world skirmishes, overheard the conversation as he passed by the hub. Wait, are you saying the game could help us win this thing? Elara turned to him, her expression one of cautious optimism. It's not a certainty, but it's the best chance we've got. We need every pilot, every player to be ready. As dawn approached, the entangled destinies of Nibaru's citizens began to unfurl, the quantum streams offering a glimmer of hope in the darkness of war. Elara and Caius continued their work, their dialogue a memorial to their dedication and the unyielding spirit of their people. The suns rose, casting their first light on a world united not only by the threat of conflict, but by the promise of peace. The game had become more than a virtual experience. It had become a symbol of their collective will to rise above adversity and forge a new path for Nibaru. Chapter 14, Sacrifice to Survive. The dimly lit war room of Nibaru's central defense tower was a marked difference to the vibrant virtual world that had captivated the hearts of its citizens. Within these walls, Elara and Caius, surrounded by a sea of holographic displays and blinking lights, faced the most challenging decision of their careers. Elara, her auburn hair pulled back to avoid any obstruction of view, surveyed the screens with a critical eye. The calculations suggest that if we divert all our quantum resources to the defense grid, we can amplify its strength, she stated, tapping on the data streams cascading down her terminal. Caius, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the console, his cybernetic arm interfacing seamlessly with the machine, nodded in agreement. It's risky. We'd have to shut down the game entirely, sever every link to Earth. It would mean the end of the lives we've built there. Across the room, Jax leaned against the cool metal wall, his brow furrowed as he processed their words. That virtual world, it's more than just a game to some. It's a second chance, a new beginning. Seraphine, her voice steady and sure, joined the conversation from the center of the room. But what good is a second chance if we don't have a first world to return to? Nibaru must come first. The room fell into a tense silence, each person wrestling with the gravity of the choice before them. The game had become a refuge, a place of hope, yet now it stood in the way of their survival. Thane, who had been listening intently, his arms crossed over his broad chest, spoke with the authority of his rank. We've defended Nibaru from threats before, but this is different. This is about who we are, about what we're willing to give up to protect our home. The conversation grew in intensity. Ideas and arguments exchanged like the passing of batons in a relay race for the future of their planet. Finally, Elara turned to face the group, her decision etched in the lines of her face. We make the sacrifice. We let go of Earth to save Nibaru. Caius reached out, his hand resting on Alara's shoulder. Together, then. It's the only way we can do this. Jax pushed off from the wall, his usual confidence replaced by a solemn resolve. Let's make it count. For Nibaru. Seraphine and Thane exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. It was time. With a series of commands, Caius initiated the shutdown sequence. The vibrant world of Earth, with its rolling hills, bustling cities, and tranquil seas, began to fade from the screens, the quantum links dissolving one by one. As the last stream flickered out, a surge of power coursed through the defense grid, its shields glowing brighter, stronger than ever before. Outside, the sky lit up with the renewed energy, a barrier against the onslaught. The sacrifice was made, the game world relinquished in favor of reality. Nibaru's citizens watched as the skies cleared, the enemy faltering in the face of their unity and determination. The war was far from over, but in this moment, the people of Nibaru had proven their willingness to do whatever it took to protect their home. The loss of their virtual refuge paled in comparison to the strength they found in each other, in the real world where their hearts truly resided. Chapter 15. Echoes of Heroes. The central square of Valicon was a mosaic of light and shadow, cast by the towering monuments that paid homage to the planet's rich history of exploration and discovery. The inhabitants of Nibaru, a wide-ranging tapestry of individuals from all corners of the metropolis, had gathered in a display of solidarity that had not been seen since the game's inception. Jax, whose daring exploits in the virtual universe had earned him a reputation that now transcended digital boundaries, moved through the crowd, his presence eliciting whispers of admiration and respect. His aviator goggles, once a mere accessory, had become a symbol of courage and adventure. "Did you see what Jax did out there?" a young Nabaroan boy asked his friend, his eyes wide with excitement. "He flew right into the heart of the enemy fleet and saved the day." Another, a girl with braids that danced in the gentle breeze, nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, and it's not just in the game. He's been flying real missions too, just as brave as he was in there." The two friends weren't the only ones discussing the blurred lines between virtual heroism and real-life valor. Citizens engaged in animated conversations, their voices a chorus that filled the square. Elara, standing beside a statue of a renowned Nabaroan explorer, overheard the chatter and felt a warm sense of pride. "We created something that did more than entertain. It inspired," she said to Caius, who was examining a handheld device, his cybernetic arm moving with precision. Caius looked up from his device, his eyes meeting Elara's. "True. It's as if the game became a forge, tempering the spirit of our people, readying them for the challenges outside the virtual realm." Nearby, Seraphine engaged in a deep conversation with a group of citizens. "The valor you've witnessed and celebrated here, it's within all of you," she encouraged, her words drawing nods and murmurs of agreement. "The unity you found through the game, it's what will see us through this war." Thane, observing from the edge of the square, was approached by a veteran whose medals gleamed in the sunlight. "General, the game. It's become more than a pastime. It's become a training ground for the mind and soul." Thane, his voice a low rumble, replied, "It has indeed. The courage they've shown in there, it's real as any act of bravery on the battlefield." The conversations continued into the evening, the stars above beginning to twinkle like distant beacons. The people of Nibiru, their faces illuminated by the glow of the square, shared stories of virtual triumphs and real-world hopes. As the night deepened, the echoes of heroes, both digital and flesh, resonated through the hearts of the Nibiruan people. They had come to realize that heroism was not confined to the tangible or the immediate, but was a quality that transcended worlds, a force that bound them together in their darkest hour. The game had become a crucible, not just for the forging of heroes, but for the uniting of a planet under the banner of shared valor. Chapter 16, The Final Connection. In the depths of Nibaru's central tech hub, where circuits and quantum processors formed a metallic jungle, Elara and Caius stood before a console that hummed with latent power. The air was thick with anticipation, charged with the potential of their latest endeavor. Caius, his fingers dancing across the control panel with practiced ease, turned to the gathered assembly of Nibaruan's finest minds. "We're on the cusp of something monumental. If we can link every mind on Nibaru, we could tap into a collective consciousness, a hive mind of paralleled wisdom." Elara, her attention fixed on the readouts flickering before her, nodded. "Imagine the discoveries, the solutions we could unearth with the combined knowledge of our entire planet." The concept sparked a flurry of conversation among those present, their voices a symphony of curiosity and caution. Scientists debated the implications, while engineers discussed the technicalities. Jax, fresh from a sortie, his uniform still bearing the marks of battle, joined the discourse. "This could change the way we fight, the way we think. It's like taking every strategic session we've ever had and turning it up to the next level." Thane, his arms folded as he leaned against a metallic pillar, offered a strategic perspective. "It's an edge, certainly, but it's also a risk. We can't predict the outcome of such a connection." Seraphine, her diplomatic insight shining through, addressed the room. "We must tread carefully, but the potential for peace is too great to ignore. Together, our minds could find paths to harmony that we have yet to imagine." The dialogue continued, growing in depth and complexity as each participant wove their thoughts into the tapestry of the conversation. The hub became a crucible of innovation, where the sparks of individual ideas ignited to form a blazing fire of collective ingenuity. As the final connection was made, a hush fell over the room. The console glowed brighter, a lodestar of unity, as the minds of Nibaru melded into one. The collective consciousness surged, a tidal wave of thoughts, memories, and emotions that was at once overwhelming and exhilarating. It was Jax who first articulated the sensation. It's like I can see every angle, feel every possibility. We're not just a team, we're a whole world working together. Elara, her eyes wide with wonder, shared her revelation. There's a pattern, a harmony to our thoughts. It's leading us somewhere. Caius, his cybernetic arm now still, his human hand trembling slightly, voiced the epiphany that dawned on them all. Peace. The path to peace has been within us all along, woven into the very fabric of our being. We just needed to connect. The final connection had been made, and with it, an unexpected solution to the war emerged from the collective wisdom of Nibiru's people. The protagonists had harnessed the game's technology not for escape or entertainment, but for the most profound discovery of all that unity, not conflict, was their greatest strength. As the suns of Nibiru set beyond the horizon, casting the planet in a gentle twilight, the inhabitants of the world felt a new sense of purpose. The game had brought them together in ways they could never have imagined, and now, as a united consciousness, they would chart a course towards a future free from war. Chapter 17, Quantum Leap of Faith. The atmosphere in the central tech hub was electric, charged with the collective focus of Nibiru's brightest, as they prepared to enact a plan that was equal parts audacious and critical. Elara and Caius stood before an array of blinking consoles and holographic displays that painted the walls with a kaleidoscope of shifting data patterns. We're in uncharted territory, Elara said, her gaze fixed on the quantum entanglement interface. But if we synchronize the quantum oscillations between here and the virtual, we might just pull this off. Caius, his fingers flying over the controls, responded without looking up. It's a leap of faith, but one we've calculated meticulously. The harmonization process should amplify our countermeasures against the enemy's advances. Around them, engineers and system analysts were locked in their roles, their eyes reflecting the screen's glow as they monitored every variable. Jax, standing beside Thane at a viewport overlooking the heart of the hub, watched the flurry of activity. So we're basically jump-starting a quantum reaction by piggybacking on the game's infrastructure? He asked, trying to grasp the enormity of the gamble. Thane nodded, his voice a steady bass. Exactly. A coordinated strike from both worlds, real and virtual. If it works, it'll go down in history. The plan hinged on a simultaneous push, a convergence of wills and technology that spanned the divide between the tangible universe and the coded realms of the game. It was more than a strategy. It was a testimony to the ingenuity and spirit of Nibiru. As the moment of truth approached, Seraphine addressed the room, her voice ringing clear. Today we stand there not just as inhabitants of a planet, but as pioneers on the edge of a new frontier. Let's show them what Nibiruan unity can achieve. The signal was given and a hush fell over the hub. Elara initiated the sequence that sent a cascade of quantum signals through the network, a pulsing warning that reached into the very fabric of reality. Caius watched the readouts, his breath held in suspense. Entanglement is stable. Harmonization is in effect. Now it's up to the collective. In the virtual world, a representation of Nibiru's citizens stood ready, their avatars poised for the unseen battle that was about to unfold. Each one understood the stakes, the silent oath they had all taken to protect their world. The climax arrived in a crescendo of light and energy, a symphony of science and willpower that resonated across both realms. In the real world, the enemy faltered, their communications scrambled by the quantum shockwave that now enveloped Nibiru. In the virtual, a cheer erupted as the players witnessed the fruits of their labor, the digital landscape alight with the glow of victory. Back in the hub, Elara and Caius shared a look of relief and triumph. "We did it," Elara whispered, the tension melting from her shoulders. Caius, a broad grin spreading across his face, replied, "We took a quantum leap, and it paid off. This is a victory for science, for Nibiru, and for every soul that dared to dream." The chapter closed on a world united, a society that had faced the abyss and leapt over it with faith in their technology and in each other. The echoes of their victory would ripple through time, a tale of a planet that stood on the brink and emerged not just unscathed, but stronger and more connected than ever before. Chapter 18, The Veil Lifts. The skies of Nibiru, once marred by the streaks of combat, now lay serene, the twin suns casting a gentle glow over the city of Valicon. The war had ended, not with the thunder of weapons, but with the quiet hum of a signal that united a world. As the citizens emerged from shelters and safe havens, they gazed upon a cityscape that was both familiar and forever changed by the events that had unfolded. In the heart of the city, the central tech hub stood silent, its usually bustling corridors and labs devoid of the frenetic energy that had driven the planet's greatest minds to feats of scientific heroism. The game, which had been their escape and their training ground, was no more. The consoles and virtual reality chambers powered down, but the legacy of what they had achieved lingered in the air like a fading echo. Elara walked through the hub, her footsteps echoing in the quiet. She paused before a darkened console, the screen that had once been a window to another world, now blank and unresponsive. "It's strange, isn't it?" Caius said, approaching her from the hallway. "To see it all switched off, knowing what it represented to us all." Elara nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of the console. "It gave us hope, brought us together in ways we couldn't have imagined. It may be offline, but what we learned from it will stay with us." The two made their way to the main assembly area where Jax, Thane, and Seraphine had gathered among other citizens. The mood was one of reflection, a collective processing of the journey they had undertaken. Jax leaned against a deactivated virtual reality pod, his arms crossed. "We trained in there as if our lives depended on it, and in a way, they did. The skills we honed, the teamwork, it all played out for real." Thane stood by a large viewport, looking out at the peaceful city. "The courage you all showed, in the game and on the battlefield, it's what carried us through. Nibiru stands thanks to your bravery." Seraphine joined the conversation, her voice measured and thoughtful. "The game was a mirror, reflecting our potential and our fears. We faced them both and came out stronger." Around them, the citizens of Nibiru engaged in their own dialogues, sharing stories of their virtual exploits and how they translated to courage in the real world. The lessons learned in the game had bolstered their resolve, taught them strategies, and forged bonds that would last a lifetime. As the meeting drew to a close, a young engineer approached Elara and Caius. "What will happen to the technology now? Can it be used for something else, something beyond the game?" Caius exchanged a glance with Elara before answering. "The principles behind it, the quantum connections, they have potential beyond what we've seen. We'll explore new applications, always mindful of the impact." The group dispersed, leaving the hub in a contemplative hush. The game had been shut down, but its influence permeated the very essence of Nibiru. It had been a sanctuary, a battleground, and a classroom all at once. As the citizens of Nibiru moved forward, they carried with them the indelible mark of their virtual experiences. The veil had been lifted, revealing not just the vulnerability of their world, but the unyielding strength of its people, united by the shared consciousness that had once spanned the stars. The game's end was not just a conclusion, but a beginning, the first step into a future ripe with the promise of new horizons and new challenges. Chapter 19, Aftermath, A World Reborn. The horizon of Nibiru bloomed with the colors of renewal. The first daybreak after the cessation of conflict casting a soft light over the city of Valicon. The people, emerging from a time of strife, turned their eyes toward the dawn of a new era, one that promised peace and a deeper connection to the tangible world around them. In the heart of the city, where the buildings rose like crystalline trees and the air buzzed with the chatter of rekindled industry, Thane strode with purpose through the streets. His towering figure, once a bastion of military might, now stood as a symbol of flexibility and hope. "It's a new beginning, isn't it, Thane?" asked Lena, a fellow officer, as she fell in step beside him, her uniform no longer bearing the marks of war, but the insignia of peace. Thane's voice, deep and resonant, carried through the morning air. "Indeed, Lena, we've learned much, and now we apply those lessons to rebuild, not just our city, but our society." Meanwhile, in the central tech hub, now a monument to the unity and innovation that had saved their world, Caius and Elara engaged in earnest discussion with a group of engineers and scientists. The virtual world taught us much about ourselves, about our capacity for courage and cooperation, Elara shared, her hands animated as she spoke, reflecting her passion for the subject. Caius, with a nod of agreement, added, "And it showed us the power of our technology, not as an escape, but as a bridge to understanding. We move forward with a new respect for the physical world and the connections we share. Jax, who had become something of a celebrity for his dual exploits in both realities, chatted with a group of young Nibaruan pilots at a cafe nestled among lush greenery. The establishment buzzed with life, the aroma of fresh brew mingling with the sounds of lively conversations. You see, it wasn't just about flying or fighting. It was about facing challenges together, whether in the sky or on the ground, Jax explained, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. One of the pilots, her eyes reflecting the sky's azure, responded, "And now we take that unity from the game into the real world, where it can do even more good." Seraphine, in a gathering within the assembly hall, a place marked by historical decisions and debates, spoke to a crowd of citizens. "We've been given a second chance. Let's cherish our world, our reality, and build upon the unity we've found." The hall, with its vaulted ceilings and walls adorned with the art of ages, resonated with applause. The citizens of Nibaru, their faces a mosaic of relief and determination, understood the gravity and the promise of her words. As the day wore on, the reflections on the war's lessons wove through the city, a tapestry of shared experiences and newfound wisdom. The societal shift was palpable, a collective embrace of the present, of the real connections and the physical beauty of Nibaru. The virtual past, once a vibrant escape, had become a cherished memory, a stepping stone to a future grounded in the here and now. The scientific and mathematical marvels that had defined their techno-epic journey had not lost their luster but had gained a new purpose, to enhance, not replace, the world they so dearly loved. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows over the reborn world, the people of Nibaru looked to the stars not as harbingers of war, but as symbols of infinite possibility. The game had ended, but its legacy lived on in the heart of every Nibaruan, an echo of heroes and a pharos for the world reborn. Chapter 20, Legacies of the Mind. As the first light of Nibaru's morning sun filtered through the leaves of the Yarlon trees in the central park of Valicon, the city stirred with the anticipation of a grand ceremony. Citizens from all districts, dressed in their cultural finery, converged on the park, a sprawling expanse of greenery that served as the heart of communal gatherings. Elara, standing beside a newly erected statue depicting a group of virtual heroes, watched as families, friends, and even strangers shared tales of bravery from both the virtual and the real battles. Her name, alongside Caius's, was engraved at the base, a testament to their role in Nibaru's history. "Quite the turnout," Caius noted, his cybernetic arm catching the sunlight as he gestured to the growing crowd. "Seems the whole planet wants to pay tribute to those who fought in every sense." Nearby, Jax, adorned with a medallion that bore the emblem of the virtual fleet he had commanded, exchanged stories with a group of young admirers. His natural charisma drew them in, his recounting of battles both coded and corporeal, leaving them wide-eyed. "You really flew through a quantum storm?" one child asked, his curiosity piqued by Jax's vivid descriptions. With a bit of Nibaruan ingenuity, "Anything's possible," Jax replied with a wink, his tone suggesting both the thrill and the weight of his experiences. Thane, a few steps away, engaged in conversation with Lina and other military strategists. They spoke not only of tactics and maneuvers, but also of the underlying unity that had been the true weapon against their foes. "The game wasn't just a simulation, it was a crucible that forged our collective resolve," Thane said, his voice resonant even in the open air of the park. In another corner of the park, Seraphine led a moment of reflection, her words painting a picture of a world that had overcome adversity through the power of shared consciousness. "We crafted our own destiny, entwined the threads of our individualities to create a tapestry of strength," she mused, her eyes reflecting the pride of a people united. The ceremony began with the unveiling of the statue, a symbol of the indomitable spirit of Nibaru. The crowd fell silent as the heroes of the game were honored, their avatars immortalized in stone and memory. As the day progressed, the park became a living museum with holographic displays recounting epic virtual skirmishes and real-life acts of valor. Children ran between the exhibits, their laughter a melody that underscored the profound sense of peace that now enveloped the planet. In the late afternoon, as the twin suns began their descent, Elara and Caius, found themselves standing before a wall that bore the names of every citizen who had participated in the defense of Nibiru, whether through the game or in the flesh. It's remarkable, isn't it? Elara said softly, her eyes scanning the names. How a game became a part of our cultural legacy, how it helped shape the identity of our future. Caius nodded, his gaze lingering on the wall. We've woven a new thread into the fabric of Nibiru. Our understanding of identity, of self, has expanded beyond what we thought possible. As night fell and the ceremony drew to a close, the people of Nibiru dispersed, their hearts full of stories that would be passed down through generations. The legacy of the mind, the legacy of their virtual and real heroes, was now an integral part of their collective history, a torch for what could be achieved when a world dared to dream and to unite in the face of adversity. Chapter 21, Resonance. As the twin suns of Nibiru dipped towards the horizon, casting long, peaceful shadows across the great assembly plaza, Elara and Caius found themselves amidst a throng of citizens gathered to celebrate the dawn of a new era. The air was alive with the hum of conversation, a tapestry of voices weaving the story of a world reborn. Elara, her auburn hair reflecting the sunset's glow, leaned on the railing that overlooked the plaza, her eyes scanning the crowd. Look at them all, Caius. Each person here carries a piece of our journey within them. Caius stood beside her, his cybernetic arm gleaming in the fading light. We've come so far, he said, his voice carrying a hint of wonder. The game was our crucible, and from it we've emerged not just unscathed, but stronger, wiser. Nearby, Jax conversed with a group of pilots, their laughter punctuating the evening air. Remember when we thought dogfights in the game were tough? He mused, a grin spreading across his face. Real space has nothing on those virtual storms. A pilot, her helmet tucked under her arm, nodded in agreement. But we learned, didn't we? Every simulation, every challenge in there, it prepped us for what was out here. Thane, his broad silhouette unmistakable in the crowd, joined a group of veterans, their faces etched with the lines of experience. The strategies we devised, the unity we forged, it wasn't confined to the virtual realm. It resonated right here, in the heart of Nibiru. Seraphine, her voice a soothing balm, engaged with civilians, her words echoing the sentiments of unity and progress. Our world has been shaped by the trials we faced, both digital and physical. The balance we've found must be nurtured as we move forward. The plaza, aglow with the light of portable lumispheres, pulsed with the energy of a civilization at the cusp of a new chapter. Children darted between the adults, their games a blend of old Nibiruan traditions and new virtual-inspired play. As the evening wore on, Elara and Caius found themselves at the center of an impromptu forum, the citizens eager to hear from those who had steered them through the darkness. We always believed technology was a tool, Elara began, her voice steady and clear. But it's more than that. It's a bridge to understanding, a way to expand our horizons. Caius picked up where she left off, his tone thoughtful. The resonance between our past and future, between the virtual and the real, it's a symphony that defines us. We must continue to listen, to adapt, and to grow. The crowd nodded, their faces a mosaic of agreement and contemplation. The lessons of the war, the echoes of the game, had become part of the cultural lexicon, a shared history that would guide their path forward. As the first stars of the evening appeared in the sky, a sense of closure settled over the plaza. The game had been a chapter in their lives, but now the pages were turning, ready for new stories to be written. Elara and Caius, their roles in shaping Nibiru's destiny acknowledged by all, looked towards the future with a sense of purpose. Technology, once a source of contention, was now their ally in building a world that harmonized the wisdom of the past with the possibilities of the future. The resonance of their experiences, of their collective journey, would continue to shape the fabric of Nibiruan society. As the celebration continued into the night, it was clear that the citizens of Nibiru would walk into tomorrow, not with trepidation, but with the confidence of a people who had stared into the abyss and found within themselves the light to lead them home. This story concludes here. It's been an honor to have you with us for When the Stars Wage War. StoryWave.ai has the unique gift of turning your prompts into engrossing tales. Please leave a like, share with your circle, and subscribe to our channel for a new story every day. March 2024. Until our paths cross again.